What the heck is psychoastrology? Good question. Let's find out together in this episode of the Radiate Wellness Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast with your host, metaphysician, Reiki master, and hypnotherapist, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week, we will discover teachings, tips, and tools to radiate your best life ever with practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate?
Welcome back to the Radiate Wellness Podcast, where today we radiate appreciation with my guest, Lisa Tahir. Now, before we get too much further, I want to make sure that you have clicked follow, subscribe, like, or whatever, wherever you're listening. And if you wouldn't mind, please leave us a little 5 stars or a review on this podcast so others can find us to find out about great guests, great authors, ways to radiate joy, peace, hope, abundance, and all of the above with our podcast. All right. Well, today my guest again is Lisa Tahir from New Orleans, Louisiana, where she is a licensed clinical social worker. She expanded her practice to Los Angeles in 2014 and attained her second LCSW license in California. She's also certified in EMDR, Reiki, and as a thought coach through the Institute of Transformational Thinking in Los Angeles. Lisa has a private practice with office locations and residences in both Los Angeles and New Orleans, and she lives between both cities with her cats. Lisa is passionately committed to working with people to help them heal through all senses of the body by utilizing intuition, therapy, energy healing, meditation, Reiki healing, crystal healing, nutrition, sound frequencies, yoga, exercise, podcasting, writing, and teaching. Wow, I wish all therapists did all of those modalities. Well, today we are talking about Lisa's book, The Chiron Effect, Healing Our Core Wounds Through Astrology, Empathy, and Self-Forgiveness. So buckle in, enjoy this episode where we talk about psychoastrology and Chiron. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for joining me to radiate appreciation today. It's great to see you.
Christy, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to. I have been kind of like giddy thinking about, we're going to talk about Chiron. And because, as a Reiki master and hypnotherapist, it's all about healing and it's all about discovering these old wounds and releasing them. So for those who are not familiar with Chiron, can you tell us a bit what that is?
Sure, Christy. As humans, we really favor patterns. And when we look at our lives, we have typically the same people, places, and things that we habituate daily. And we call that our routine. And it helps us to feel really safe as humans to have a predictable routine and order in our lives. And hopefully most of you really enjoy every aspect of your life and your patterns. But often there might be like one area that we feel like is a little off, and we might tend to even overlook that or push it to the side, and sometimes even feel some shame around it. Like say if a person might be single for a long time, rather than valuing that I've really had all this time to get to know myself and life and do things I want to do, there might be a self-judgment there as well and that just comes to mind because I've had people share that I felt like that at times in my life. And then realizing that this is an area that we just need some more support and we need some more empathy. My book centers on talking about self-forgiveness and empathy towards ourselves. So Chiron in our birth chart reveals 1 of 12, and it's on a spectrum, core wounding, all the way down to like an ouch. If you grew up in a family that was healthy, where you really were loved and believed in, you come out of that childhood with maybe just a couple of like ouch places. So this isn't as deep for those of you that grew up with some trauma, with some wounding, where there might have been abandonment or neglect or abuse. And this has become a real pain point for you, feeling like there might be something wrong with you. versus you went through hard situations that were wrong and had normal reactions to them. And now the work is to realign yourself with your wholeness and whatever healing that may be necessary. So Chiron helps us understand that one main area where we do feel vulnerability.
Right, right. And of course, Chiron is from Greek mythology. Chiron was a centaur, a wounded
Yes.
healer. And in astrology, Chiron is, I believe, an asteroid. Is that correct? An asteroid?
So Chiron in our solar system was discovered in the, oh my gosh, I think it was 1978 or 1981. It has an odd elliptical orbit between the planets of Saturn and Uranus, and it's been designated as both a comet and a minor planet. So it has two designations in astronomy.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Now,
Yeah.
of course, your book is basically the Chiron Effect, healing our core wounds through astrology, empathy, and self forgiveness. But this is not an astrology book.
Astrology is the diagnostic point for us to jump off, to leap off from. That once you know where your Chiron is it in Aries or Gemini or Leo or Taurus, it will be in a different placement than your sun sign,
Right.
typically than your moon. And so this really reveals the area, again, on a spectrum of vulnerability, wounding that you experience. And why I believe this is so important to know about ourselves is that when we know this area, like Chiron in Aries, for instance, the placement that I have my Chiron in, it really helped me understand that whenever I felt some depression or anxiety or anything that wasn't a healthier emotion, I was really being judgmental and critical of myself and feeling like I'm not enough, feeling like I need to keep performing to be good enough, like professional accomplishments, as well as in our childhoods, there might have been a pattern of people pleasing to get your emotional needs met. And it was so helpful to learn I can choose to take some steps away from those patterns. Again, thought patterns, I'm absolutely good enough. And how can I just do less and feel more worthy, feel valuable, whether I do another thing or not? And that might be uncomfortable at first to break your patterns and try some new things. But it's okay. That anxiety can be a sign of growth and healing. It's just something new. And we might feel a bit uncomfortable in that space. But it led me to feeling so much more love and acceptance of myself. And in turn, it's helped me to be more forgiving with others without having to effort that like I used to.
Yes, yes, yes. I do think that this self knowledge and this self awareness can be very helpful. And just to know your chart and where your various planets and houses are can be very helpful. And I wish more therapists knew this stuff. I'm thrilled
Yeah.
that you do. Why did you
Thank you.
decide to marry the two, the therapy and astrology?
Well, Chrissy, it actually came through me 10 years ago. I was meditating, asking the universe, asking God, like, why do I have so many successful clients that are still feeling anxiety and depression? And why was I still feeling anxiety and depression after being in therapy as a client 20 years, being self aware? Like, what is going on? Like, after looking under kind of every rock and stone, feeling like, what's this missing piece, universe? And I simply started to kind of hear in my mind's eye, Chiron. It was a whisper. And it didn't mean very much, Christy, at first. I wasn't really impressed, but I've learned enough that when it comes up like that, it might be like a whisper at first. It'll get louder and louder. So I've learned to just surrender and, okay, I'm going to go with this Chiron thing, universe. I'm going to start Googling. And that's where I learned, like you spoke about, Chiron was a centaur in Greek mythology, a heavenly body in our solar system between Saturn and Uranus, as well as this astrological placement that speaks to where we feel our deepest vulnerabilities. And that's where we tend to like disproportionately try to hide or feel ashamed of. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like I felt like I was really onto something. And I spent about 3 years researching and writing this book to really connect it with other paradigms in psychotherapy and psychology. And astrology to me is this beautiful map and template that helps us understand ourselves. And I was getting lost and feeling like this is prescribed to me and really resisting that until I had the download. No, Lisa, you wrote your chart and so did everyone else. And I don't remember consciously wanting to come into my earthly human life, wanting to experience some of these things that even were painful, only so that I could heal and use them as my gift to help others as a healer. And we've all made those decisions. And the good news is that having self-awareness and information, we can change our patterns and live an easier and healthier life. So it's really like a wonderful story that we can script a new story of our lives. And I wonder what you think about that.
I think that's wonderful because yes, we do decide our chart before we're even born. And I think just having the chart allows us to rewrite it. Right? To look at it consciously, because of course, when we created this chart, it was unconsciously. And now we can look at it as a roadmap and then decide, well, do I want to take this route or do we want to change it a bit?
I like how you're saying that. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And Lisa, you put these two things together into psychoastrology.
Yes.
Is that something that you coined? Is this something that has been around?
I trademarked that word, psychoastrology. I love language. Christy, language is so important. And when you really start to dive into the value of language and our spoken word, there is a quote I read by Florence Shen, who I quote in my book in several places. And she talks about, it's called spelling because we're actually casting spells with our words. We speak over and into our lives, over the lives of others with our words. And so it's really valuable and important to be mindful of the language you're using towards yourself, because that ends up being the path that we're living and walking, and to really clean up our language, because our subconscious mind doesn't have a sense of humor like our human mind does. And a lot of people might self-deprecate because it's funny, but it also might not be the kindest thing for yourself. So I encourage you to just check in with yourself about that and see how your language is creating your life. And with intention, we can start to change our language to be more supportive and affirming and healthy and happy and abundant. And that's why I'm radiating appreciation today before coming on the show with you, knowing that you talk about wellness and you're a Reiki master teacher and metaphysician and therapist, that this was the perfect place to just really feel appreciative that I landed here because of really working to address my thought patterns and change them into more healthy patterns. And I get to be here now. And I feel so much appreciation for the journey.
Wonderful. So how long have you been doing therapy?
I have been doing therapy since 1998. So it's been 27 years.
Good for you. Did you always know that you wanted to be a therapist?
I did. My parents found a note when I was 5 or 6 years old. I scribbled, I want to be a psychiatrist, and I misspelled it. But I've always been curious about people, Christy, and how we tick and how we work. And I entered therapy as a client when I was 21 years old. And I knew when I sat in front of my first therapist, Marilyn, and she started listening to me, I knew this is what I want to do with my life, because it felt really good to have a relationship that you're safe to be your authentic self and just put out there your thoughts and feelings and not be criticized, but, ask, tell me more about that. And what do you mean? And, is that what you really think is going on? Or what about this possibility? And it was so life-changing for me that I entered social work school when I was 23. And that's been my path as a healer.
That is so exciting, Lisa. Just
thank you.
What you want to do when you're 5 years old.
Yes.
I didn't know what I wanted to do until I was well into my adulthood. So
how did you know?
More or less just kind of stumbled into it. Right. And then as it started evolving, I didn't even dream of it as a possibility, but I didn't know that it existed. So as I started learning more and more and discovering that, no, this is really my path to help people and to communicate about helping people. And it's interesting. You talk about language. I've got a master's in linguistics.
Wow.
And the language is very, very important. And it really does shape our emotions, our thoughts, the way we approach things. And just looking at different language groups around the world, you can see what they prioritize and how they think, and the processes that they think with, how they think with the language that they use and how it's structured. Anyway,
Hey, Chrissy, is it true? It's interesting what you're saying, that in some cultures, there might not be words like depression or things that we have in our English language, that they might not even have a word for some of the things that we speak about?
Yeah, that too, that they don't, there's the whole story of Eskimos, the Inuits had so many words for snow because of all the different types. I mean, that's part of it. And just the structure of language as well. Certain languages, they have the verb, the action at the beginning of each sentence. So, that's the most important is what we do. And then others, they save it for the end of the sentence. So, what we're talking about is more important than what we do about it. So, there's
Interesting.
all kinds of interesting things with language. But, you look at the 4 agreements, even.
Yeah.
The first agreement is be impeccable with your word.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use your word to sin against yourself or others. Right?
Yeah, that book is on my nightstand. It's something I've gone back to over the years, especially not to take things personally. And the more I live, the more experiences I have, I really see people are responding from their own point of view. And even this doesn't include abuse, but when somebody might not be showing up as their best self, I used to feel so upset by that and threaten and be like, why are you, not texting me back? And now instead I'm like, I'm wondering if you're okay. I hadn't heard from you. I hadn't heard back from you in a week and I'm just want to check in. And it turns out there's always been something they're going through and it had nothing to do with me. So being more curious and open, I think can help our communication and our relationships. And it takes being able to kind of contain our own emotion first, because it's natural for us to have feelings about things. We don't want to stifle or shut down our feelings, but I think we want to contain them and then ask a more open-ended question to see if this has to do with us or not, and not just jump to that conclusion. And the 4 agreements have really helped me with that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great way to live your life. Got a little poster of the 4 agreements hanging up on my wall that I'm
Nice.
at right now as a constant reminder because it's important.
Yeah.
So, the Chiron Effect. Why did you write this book? How long did it take you to write it?
To answer the question that I was asking the universe, why do I know so many bright people that are successful in their own ways, yet they were still stumbling by feeling anxious, depressed, less than? I wrote it to help us really release those thought patterns that are limiting us. We can only go as far as our largest limiting belief. And when I realized that, it was like, wow, okay, like I really want to get to know those parts of myself and not silence her or tell her to go away. Like, to be like, okay, Lisa, why might you be feeling unworthy? Like what? And really attune to that part of myself. And I'm just so sorry you went through that is a tool I use with clients. If there's something that's hurt you and the person isn't around to make an amends, that we can make the apology within ourselves and heal that part of us. And then from there, it's like, okay, what do I want now? And who do I want to become? And what's the story of my life? I switched from being so about the disempowerment and the pain to like, okay, I'm really familiar with that. But now what do I want? And that was a bit unclear. So I started thinking in the direction, I want to feel free. I want to feel happy. I want to have good relationships. I want to be with people that enjoy being with me. And starting general, I think can help versus just like positive thinking, because we're not feeling positive all the time. And I think in those moments, to even just go general and neutral, like I'd really just like to feel some peace, contentment, have an easy day, like kind of take it down a few notches to allow ourselves to be where we are emotionally on a given day.
Yeah, wonderful. I think this is going to help a lot of people. What is the release date of this book?
It came out actually in 2020.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
it's been out.
Little while. Oh,
Yeah.
So I'm sure that a lot of people have found this and just seen themselves in the pages. I think that's very useful if we know where our Chiron is, and there are
Yes.
Chiron calculators out there. Do you have a preferred one that you like?
I have a free plug, like on my website, when you go to nolatherapy.com and there's a button called order my book, or you can go to nolatherapy.com/Chiron and you just enter in your date of birth, your place of birth, and if you have it, your time of birth, and hit the button and it generates like Chiron is in this sign and in this house. So you can just have that information very easily. I wanted to make it easy for people.
Oh, that is exciting.
Because it was kind of hard to find Chiron. When I was writing my book, not many astrology websites made it easy and obvious to find. So this is easy and obvious.
Oh, that is wonderful. I think just having the knowledge of your chart is more than half the battle. It's wonderful. So with Chiron and writing about astrology and, well, psychoastrology, as you coined the phrase, do you find any pushback from the psychology community, mental health?
I think I haven't per se, but I have had some even podcasters an endorsement I asked for. Someone say, well, I'm not able to endorse this. It's not psychology. It's not science. And I understood that because who this person was, it made sense. But when other people, I'm like, why don't I look up your Chiron and tell you a bit about it? And the accuracy is so accurate that people are like, wow, okay, this is surprisingly helpful. And again, it goes back to we all wrote our charts. So this isn't something that I've made up. It's actually like a technology to help you understand yourself and remember. I think healing is also about remembering who we are. And I feel like you would feel that way too, like remembering our wholeness, remembering our goodness, remembering our perfection and our health, and, like kind of screening out the world long enough to really start to have that deeper awareness within ourselves. And then we're able to take actionable steps to fulfill that more in our lives. Like maybe we need to stop talking to a certain person or people that have put us down, that don't really treat us like we want. Maybe this is the time, having this information, it's time to walk away from that. And you might say something to them and you might not. You might just move yourself along and be open to people that really meet you more of where you are. Because our relationships are about resonance and energy, and where we vibrate emotionally is what we attract back to us. Like frequencies want to harmonize, and it can help to understand your relationships in that way.
Now, I wish more therapists had this type of language.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, as a metaphysician. And I'd love to have you on my podcast because I'd love to know more about your work. So that's just something I'd like to hear more about you.
I would love to be on the show. People mistake me for a therapist all the time, but I am not. So I really admire the work that you do.
Thank you.
And that you can pull this stuff in, because I think knowing our signs, knowing the effect of energy and emotions and the effect of trauma on the body is so helpful in therapy.
It is. And I wasn't taught this in school. And I'm just so, again, I appreciate, that's my word. I appreciate that this information found me because I've always been a seeker and asked lots of questions. And I feel like because of my intense questioning, the universe has served up answers that have helped me to help myself and other people, because we're really here to be happy. I believe like the universe and God is for us. It's not about testing and all these jumping through hoops. That's a real human, I think, idea of spirituality and religion or of God. Like we're unconditionally loved and supported. And the more we can really start to feel that and appreciate it, like it takes effect in our lives. That's what we start to experience day to day.
Right. And then when we talk about these core wounds, we all have them. How does one begin to heal these core wounds, though?
So, and again, core wounds, the title is a lengthy title. Ideally, I'd like it to say something around healing our core wounds through astrology, healing our core wounds and vulnerability, because this really is for a lot of people an area of vulnerability. And not everyone, fortunately, has experienced major traumas. And so it's a different degree how life has touched you. And I talk about that in my book. The way life has touched you is how we are relating to others in our lives and ourselves. And healing really starts with first recognizing that I'm living because of how life has touched me. And maybe that really put me off of my path because I overly compensated for a painful experience in my life. So maybe I'm not open to a relationship or friendships. Maybe I'm kind of afraid of that because I don't want to be hurt again. I've heard clients say that to me. So I think it's about opening, first of all, to a deeper connection with yourself, learning like that I'm safe with me and I can learn the skills to discern people's motives and intentions even, and start attracting people that want to love us and be kind and support us, for example. So it's exploring, some of what's happened to you and how you feel about it, and then kind of deciding to take some new steps. It looks like you wanted to say something.
No. I was just agreeing with you. Yes.
Yeah.
New steps, right?
And I give specific steps for the 12 placements of Chiron. There's some different steps you would take if Chiron was in Aries versus Pisces. So I give 5 to 6 practical steps that you can start today. It's because I really love practical wisdom, Christy. Like, I love philosophy and that kind of thing, but there's a chapter where the rubber meets the road, where it's like, okay, how do we actually become less reactive, less affected by our triggers, and instead become more responsive, able, again, to contain, reflect, and then respond rather than just so off the cuff being reactive and impulsive. It's a skill to learn. So I give specific takeaways for every Chiron placement to help you with that, as well as some affirmations and like mantras that you can use.
It is super helpful. My Chiron's in Pisces, and
Oh, wow. That's
from
not surprising because you're a metaphysician. So spirituality is your path to healing and
yeah,
understanding life's like deepest truths.
apparently.
And you probably are highly sensitive and
Oh,
an empath. Is that true? Yeah.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's in the Chiron placement of Pisces.
It was interesting that this path is, well, no, of course we know that these things are decided by us before we're even born, but it's just really great to get that validation
Yes.
in your pages.
Yes. And for you, I wonder if it's been learning to set healthy boundaries, to not neglect yourself and do so much for others and kind of have you at the bottom of the list. I imagine you've been working on you're at the top of the list as well. It's you and them, not you or them.
I feel so seen right now, Lisa.
Good. I'm glad.
So where did you get all this wonderful information that you put into the book?
It was over 3 years of researching and just this was like, I felt like I had to do this. So I set aside writing time for 3 years. I'd schedule blocks of time as if I had clients. And I even told friends and family, I have clients tonight. When I didn't have any clients, I was writing, but I needed to really prioritize that time to myself. And if I was saying, oh, I'm writing, I could be so easily swayed to go have dinner or do anything else. But so I really created that method for me to show up for my writing. And even if I didn't write anything new, I would edit, I'd research. And that's how the book came together. It was a lot. It's my first book. It was so much to put together, but I felt really excited and really moved to do it. Like the universe wanted this to come through me. Like I really felt that this way of approaching Chiron and healing vulnerability and wounding through self empathy and self forgiveness. Like I really felt like this is something for me to share.
Yes, and I would agree. And yeah, taking time to write, that is important. You really have to put it on the calendar, make it a priority. I mean, I've got my
Mhm.
first book out this summer and it
Oh,
takes
that's awesome. Congratulations.
you. Thank you. I'm very, very excited. And it took a lot to put it together and a lot to write, and you have to prioritize it. Otherwise, it's not going to get done. But
Yeah.
I think too, we have to prioritize ourselves and our healing
Mhm.
as well with the same meticulous care, right? And
Yeah.
just making ourselves that priority, I think is helpful. Now, something that I was curious about, given your book and everything, I know that natal charts also apply to not only people, but a city or country.
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So I found it interesting. I was curious, what if I put in the date of, say, Independence Day of America, July 4th, 1776, and it came up with Chiron and Aries, which is where we are today in the general sense. Chiron and Aries. At first, it was a little confusing because that speaks to a core wounding or vulnerability and our sense of value and worth. And I was thinking, wow, America is like the most powerful country in the world. Like, how does that make sense? But then I looked at the fourth house placement and I'll just read Chiron and Aries. Let's see. Chiron was in the sign of Aries in the fourth house when our country approved the final text of the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on July 4th, 1776. Chiron and Aries revolves core wounding and our country's sense of value and worth. You would assume the most powerful nation in the world would value its worth highly. So, to understand the psychoastrology of Chiron of our nation, we must look at how this core wounding manifests in a fourth house placement pertaining to our sense of home, security, nurturing, and family. And this placement has to do with taking care of our own people. And as generations of the United States of America, we have sorely lacked in valuing the needs of our own inhabitants. You know, having to like that veterans are homeless on the street, that in rural and urban areas, children in schools like don't have enough to eat, don't have enough food. There's just healthcare. There's just such a discrepancy here that we have some healing to do in aligning ourselves with caring for our own people. I think, you know, rather than always rushing to another country's aid, like what about our own inhabitants? So I found that interesting.
That is very interesting. And it makes me wonder now that SNAP benefits are being cut and Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security and all of these things, education, how can we heal this core wound in us?
Well, I think it's that's at the macro level. And as individuals, doing what you feel led to do, I think is key. And instead of getting overwhelmed in the bigness of it all, to really look at what I can do. What can you do that's meaningful? And you don't have to take on the whole thing, because again, that could lead to depletion and spinning yourself out and then having nothing to give. So how do you fill your own tank and those of your immediate household and your loved ones? I think to really keep it manageable for yourself and doing things that heal, nurture, and support you. And by all of us doing this, it makes a difference collectively. And you can also put, Christy, in the Chiron placement generator, you can put, say, the date of your marriage or your first date to see the Chiron placement of a relationship. So that way couples know how to better support each other, because couples usually have patterns where discomfort or fights are around a certain topic. So to really understand this Chiron placement can help you support each other to heal it, rather than feeling like you're enemies fighting each other, to really come together to heal this wound or vulnerability that your relationship actually wants you to heal. And your business, put the date of incorporation of your LLC in and see what comes up. And you'll know kind of what to be aware of in your business, to be mindful of moving forward. So you can use this to find these vulnerabilities of anything that has a date that you can tie it to.
That is a great idea. You think about doing compatibility charts, but I don't know that Chiron makes it into compatibility charts all that often.
Right. I don't know either. That's a good point.
It should.
Mm-hmm.
Really kind of important. Chiron is something I just found out about, I'd say within the past 10 years. And I don't think it's one that gets much due, but it should, because
hopefully it will. I feel like I'm hearing more and more about Chiron in this last few years. So I'm excited about that, to help people, again, just understand their deeper layers and how to stop criticizing and judging ourselves, thinking that's going to create the changes we want, and instead really love and embrace ourselves. What do we need to heal this vulnerability, to show up truly as we want to? And that's usually a path that's more compassionate and loving and supportive than one that's harsh and critical.
I love that. Now, what about a Chiron return?
So that happens where Chiron returns to where it was when you were born, typically at like 49, 50, or 51. And it's just a time, I use birthdays to do an inventory each year. So it's a good time to take an inventory if you haven't, but I encourage you to just kind of assess yourself in your life more regularly than just at a Chiron return, because it brings up things that you haven't healed. They might come up more powerfully or more strong at your Chiron return. And I think ideally we want to stay out ahead of our healing, really nurturing and consistently giving to ourselves, so things don't get to such a crisis point, so to speak, that we want to be more mindful about our self-care and our mental health and our healing, to try to stay in a healthy place consistently.
Right. Well, they tell you after surgery or after some sort of procedure, don't wait until you're in pain to take the ibuprofen. Just take it on a schedule so you can get ahead.
Right.
Same thing, I think. And, a friend of mine is going through her Chiron return, and she is undertaking so much healing, but also looking at how she can bring this to clients. And she's starting her own healing business. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. I thought that was great for a Chiron return, right? Heal and heal outward too.
To use your experiences to help others. It can feel so good to do that, to find that silver lining I talk about in my book.
Tell us more about the silver lining. What do you talk about in your book about the silver lining?
As far as the things, and I'll speak for myself, the things I've gone through that have been the hardest, they've always yielded, like me becoming more resilient, more compassionate, more determined, more appreciative. I've always had a growth mindset, and that served me to really see beyond what is. And I've also learned that, okay, I don't need or want to learn through so many painful things. Universe, I want to learn through love and joy. And really, that's where our intuition comes in handy, that our intuition's always, always, always guiding us. Like, go left, not right, pause here. When we just listen to that voice, even if it doesn't make sense, to really honor our intuition has a knowing of all people, places, and things, and wants to really easily guide us through life. That if you have a feeling about a person that isn't the best feeling, you don't have to understand that to honor it and be like, okay, I'm going to go opposite this way, and be with the people you gravitate towards. That's again, the energy and our intuition drawing us to where we're meant to be and kind of pushing us away from where we're not. And we can just get really sensitive to understanding how our energy speaks to us and flows. And then we start learning in like awesome ways that are really delightful and happy and more joyful rather than so painful.
I love that. Now, I see that your book has been endorsed by the Dalai Lama, which is a big deal.
Thank you. Thank you.
How did that come about?
I really wanted the endorsement of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And to me, he embodies compassion. And I've listened to a lot of what he says. I got to see him when he came to speak in person in New Orleans. And so that was kind of like, I really wanted him to give me his thoughts about my book. And I sent an email with my book. And I knew when I hit send, I'm not hearing anything. Because the way I wrote, it wasn't from the right place within me. It was more like an ego. Like it just felt like it, like I was like, okay, Lisa, that you need to work on some things. And I thought when I realized His Holiness represents to me compassion, I thought, how can I be more compassionate in my life? Like I felt like this was going to set me on a new journey. And I looked at like I'm a kind person, yet when I'm on the phone to get my internet fixed, I might get really short and rude with the person helping me when the call's dropped, it's going on 45 minutes. Like I'm not really compassionate there. And I was like, okay, I really want to clean that up. And I went through this period. I forgot how long it was, if it was like a year, where I just started to kind of clean up my side of the street and really intentionally wanting to be more compassionate in the ways I imagine that His Holiness is. And I was in meditation one day and I heard him say, send me your book. I want to read it. It was just like in my mind's eye again. And I sent it, and it was in less than a month that I received a beautiful letter of endorsement, him talking about, there's just a small endorsement on the book, but it was like a full page letter about how my use of meditation and empathy really is the way that humans heal on our planet. And he just wished me so much success and blessings. And he said he's a Buddhist scientist, not an astrologer, but that these methods are what help people to heal. And I wrote back and I sent him a gift, some glass art I made. And his secretary had said, don't even send that. People steal things, that they send to His Holiness, but it got to him. So I got another letter. So it's just really beautiful that when we align ourselves in the spirit of, in the emotion of what we seek and desire, that's how things manifest. Like I really sought to become more compassionate and like walk the walk of my talk. And it happened. And so it was really encouraging. And I want to encourage you, whatever it is that you desire, to take some time out to really start to become that and show up in that way and like see what happens as a result of doing that.
You have some other wonderful endorsements as well. Marianne Williamson, former member of the House of Representatives, Katie Hill, John Gray, Dr. Judith Orloff. I've been trying to have her on my show. I would love to talk to her.
Yeah.
Cute Blackson. I've interviewed him before. He's lovely. You've got some amazing reviews and endorsements here. This is big. This is really, really big.
Thank you. And actually, just a slight on that is that those were my podcast guests. Those individuals didn't endorse my book, but they have been on my podcast as my guests. But I was very proud for Catherine Woodward Thomas, who's the New York Times bestseller of Calling in the One and Conscious Uncoupling. She did endorse my book, as well as several other amazing authors and teachers. So I feel really proud about that.
That is exciting. I think Dr. Judith Orloff should also endorse your book. So
that would be great.
Well, my bad.
It's okay.
Let's talk about your podcast, because what a great topic. All things therapy. That seems wonderful. Can you tell us
Thank you.
Podcast?
Yeah, I have been podcasting now since 2016. So it's been 9 years, and I had no idea I'd be doing it this long, Christy. And I really love, and when I started my show for the first, say, 7.5 years, I always had a guest. And in the last year and a half, I've started to do some solo episodes to push myself to show up without a guest. And I found that to be more challenging because it's kind of easy for me to have a conversation like we are, but it felt harder to just show up to the microphone and share some of my thoughts and feelings. So I've been lovingly wanting to do that, to just be more transparent and vulnerable and show up and grow that muscle of just speaking to people one-on-one. And so I really love podcasting. I've met amazing, amazing, amazing people that way.
That is just absolutely wonderful. I mean, I love podcasting myself. It is just great. You get to talk with people all over the world who do amazing.
Yeah, it's totally true.
Love it. I
So
love
I'd
it
love to have you as a guest on this year.
to be on your show.
Awesome.
Yes, we'll make that happen.
We will.
Yeah. So back to your book now. What do you hope is the biggest takeaway for readers?
Yeah, I really hope that people start to see themselves through a new and different lens. We walk around as if we have glasses on, these filters of our own life experience. And when we've been, again, when life has touched us with painful things, our glasses get kind of dirty. We're not quite seeing clearly because of these experiences. And my desire is that you really heal your vulnerabilities and your wounds lovingly, compassionately, so that you really can see life clearly, like all the beauty there is for you, all that there is for you, that you want, that it's your unique life, that I really want people to have a clear experience of it and have more ease through this work and paradigm.
Wonderful. So your website is nolatherapy.com. Nola as in New Orleans, Louisiana?
Yes, when I first started my business in 2008, NOLA Therapy standard for New Orleans, Louisiana Therapy. And now, as the universe would have it, I live in New Orleans and Los Angeles. So it now stands for New Orleans, Los Angeles Therapy.com. So I think the universe had played a joke on me there. I didn't know I'd ever live in LA, and I did. And my business name still fits.
That is so cute.
Yes. The universe has a sense of humor. So know that.
It does. And you're a licensed clinical social worker in both markets, and then you still see people in your practice.
I do. I do Zoom and phone sessions, and I love to integrate Chiron when people are open and wanting to know about that, because I think it makes the process easier and it's more helpful and more practical. And again, I think practical wisdom is really effective so that we can be living our lives and not have a lot of, heady thing, like how like transformation is an experience, and information that helps us to transform ourselves, I think, is most meaningful.
Oh, it is. It is. The whole play, King Lear by Shakespeare, was about his tragic flaw, of course, was he ever did but slenderly know himself. He just didn't have that self-knowledge. And I think, knowing our chart and knowing where certain planets and houses are in our design, I think very helpful just to have that self-knowledge and self-understanding and heading with that into therapy.
Yes.
Is there anything we haven't talked about, Lisa, that you think is important for our audience to know?
No, Chrissy, I feel really seen and heard too. Thank you for this time.
Well, again, the book is The Chiron Effect, Healing Our Core Wounds Through Astrology, Empathy, and Self-Forgiveness. Yes, my guest today is Lisa Tahir. Thank you so much. And I would encourage everyone to pick up this book and, well, first of all, find out where your Chiron is, and then go about learning more about yourself. So thank you so much for joining me today, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me today, Christy.
Happy to. Don't know what to watch next? Decisions. Well, we've got some suggestions. You can click this little video here and watch that. It's something that we think you're going to like. If you like the last one, you're going to like that one too. You can also click on the subscribe button. And if you do that, then you'll get notifications whenever we have a new video up. Win-win, right?